Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We are excited to be a part of the Climate Science Alliance's 2020 Virtual Climate Summit. My name is Darby Berry, and I am the Climate Adaptation Specialist for the San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative. Today, I will be sharing with you the results from the recently completed Regional Adaptation Needs Assessment. In July of 2018, the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG, was awarded funding from the Caltrans Senate Bill 1 Adaptation Planning Grant Program with the San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative, the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve, and the San Diego Foundation as sub-grantees of this award. The Regional Adaptation Needs Assessment was designed to strengthen the linkage between mitigation and adaptation planning efforts. It was important that the needs assessment be both multidisciplinary as well as address multiple climate impacts in order to best identify cross-sectoral needs and future opportunities for collaboration. The goals of this project were to 1. Connect local efforts to ongoing regional adaptation efforts. 2. Help incorporate adaptation into existing planning efforts. And 3. Identify adaptation needs and opportunities for the San Diego region. The Regional Adaptation Needs Assessment development consisted of 2 rounds of interviews with over 60 professionals from across the region and statewide. The round 1 interviewed staff from local jurisdictions and regional jurisdictions. And round 2 interviewed practitioners in the climate impact areas of equity, wildfire, water, and public health. We chose to focus on those 4 areas, both due to budget and time constraints, but also because they came up the most frequently during the round 1 interviews as desired areas of focus. It is important to note that sea level rise was not selected as a climate impact area. This was due to a separate ongoing effort managed by SANDAG. However, those interviews were included in the analysis for the needs assessment. Each round of interviews indicated key needs for furthering adaptation in the region. In round 1, 70% of interviewees indicated that data and technical assistance were needed to advance adaptation planning. This was followed by 60% of interviewees reporting the need for greater access to funding opportunities. And this was trailed by 52% of interviewees indicating that staffing and capacity were large inhibitors to their advancement of adaptation planning. In round 2, 73% of interviewees indicated that their greatest need to advance adaptation was increased funding opportunities. Furthermore, 60% of these interviewees indicated that there was a lack of awareness regarding their involvement in adaptation and climate resilience planning in the region. Like round 1, 50% of round 2 interviewees indicated that staffing and capacity prevented the advancement of their adaptation planning. Specifically, staffing retention was a major concern for the respondents who worked in the equity space. From these interviews, we also identified several key themes. The round 1 interviews indicated that the primary barrier to advancing adaptation is a limited understanding of adaptation itself and how it can be applied to various jobs, organizations, and projects. This lack of clarity is problematic. When it comes to meeting new and evolving needs, a uniform definition is crucial to tracking local and regional long-term success. Consequently, mitigation planning has clear, measurable metrics of success. For example, a greenhouse gas reduction target and a climate action plan. However, to mobilize adaptation planning, local and regional agencies need to better understand how to do the same for adaptation. In addition, the needs assessment concluded that adaptation efforts in the region are largely reactive. meaning that adaptation efforts are at a high level, not at the implementation stage, and not incorporated into other planning efforts holistically. Moreover, interviewees indicated that state policies and resources were either difficult to access and/or understand. Interviewees highlighted that the state guidance is not easily operationalized on the ground, and without a more comprehensive understanding of the state's adaptation policies, many local jurisdictions have a difficult time knowing how to plan for adaptation, despite wanting to incorporate adaptation into their operations. Lastly, regional collaboration, communication, and engagement strategies need to be elevated. Respondents stated that they lacked the capacity to reevaluate their organization's current planning documents, for example, general plans, local coastal programs, and safety elements, in order to identify what measures are adaptation focused and what could use updating. Without this exercise, local agency staff would not be able to identify where new and innovative strategies and solutions addressing climate change impacts would need to be developed. Regional coordination and support are particularly important for organizations that have less funding and capacity than staff. Furthermore, it can establish multi-jurisdictional funding partnerships, which increases the possibility for broader, more comprehensive vulnerability assessments, which is a critical first step in planning for adaptation. Another key regional need identified by the needs assessment is related to funding. Limited funding can create a negative feedback loop, one that inhibits local jurisdictions and regional agencies from advancing their adaptation planning activities. When we break this down, we find that funding often targets a specific project phase, be it assessment, planning, implementation, or monitoring. And this makes it difficult to holistically fund a project from start to finish. Funding is to support staffing capacity itself within the organization is also extremely limited. Without capacity, organizations cannot pursue funding opportunities, collaborate and develop strong partnerships, conduct adaptation planning analyses, and/or implement adaptation planning projects. As I mentioned earlier, equity was identified as one of the impact areas to focus on. And in round 2, we interviewed 7 equity specialists who work in climate and environmental planning across the region. These interviews revealed 3 important needs. The first is that building community resilience requires prioritizing equity in adaptation planning. The second is that equity must be integrated throughout the entire adaptation planning process itself. And the third is that there is a really strong need for clearly defined funding for equity-specific projects. All of the interviewees stated that communities of concern already have adaptation pathways integrated into their decision-making, and that local jurisdictions can better engage and learn from these communities to inform adaptation planning. In addition to identifying key regional needs to advance adaptation, the adaptation needs assessment also looked at several opportunities that can advance adaptation in our region right now. The first is that regional leaders are championing adaptation projects. Individual practitioners are advancing projects through creative mediums, elevating adaptations within their organizations, with their local decision makers, and/or elevating these in community dialogues. The second opportunity is to prioritize multi-beneficial projects. Integrating adaptation into already funded multi-beneficial projects is very helpful. If integrated into other planning efforts, adaptation would become more normalized in typical local and regional planning practices and operations. The third opportunity is to enhance collaborative networks and resource sharing. Stronger collaboration works to saturate the message and the integration of adaptation into the planning process more holistically. Organizations and communities that struggle with limited capacity and resources can benefit the most from connecting with others in the region that have more adaptation resources and/or experience. The fourth and final opportunity is to connect local research to local action. There is an opportunity to streamline access and integration of local research agencies from across San Diego. There needs to be a more centralized location and streamlined process for sharing this climate information and adaptation information, so organizations know that local science and research is available to them and how to understand and access it more quickly. We are excited to continue building off this great effort. In May 2019, SANDAG was awarded additional funding through the Caltrans SB1 Adaptation Planning Grant Program with the San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative as a subrecipient. We will also be working with the Energy Policy Initiative Center, or EPIC, as well as DUDEC on these efforts. While the Regional Adaptation Needs Assessment identified information gaps regarding existing risks and adaptation needs, this new project will provide tangible guidance on how to address and identify these risks and needs through holistic implementation projects, ones that link mitigation, adaptation, and broader community benefits. An economic guidance document, equity prioritization document, and decision-making tool to weigh these different considerations will be developed to help local planners with this complex decision-making process. The San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative looks forward to supporting the development of the economic guidance document and equity prioritization document. The Regional Adaptation Needs Assessment is available on the SANDAG website at sandag.org/climate and the San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative's website, sdclimatecollaborative.org. You may also sign up for our monthly newsletter and additional Climate Collaborative offerings through this site. We also invite you to connect with us on Twitter at sdclimatecollab or with SANDAG at SANDAG. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about this incredible project. If you have questions about the Regional Adaptation Needs Assessment, please email me, Darby Berry, at darbyberry@sandiego.edu or Katie Hendrick at katie.hendrick@sandag.org. Thank you.